At Thanksgiving, my sister found out I had 12 million, and my family insisted I hand it over saying she was more entitled to it. Hey everyone, before we dive into today's story, I need to ask a quick favor. Our channel's growth has been slowing, and subscribing makes a big difference. It's fast, totally free, and keeps great stories like this coming your way. Your support truly matters. It helps us keep going and growing together. Thanks so much. All right, let's get into today's story. I'm using a throwaway account for obvious reasons, and I've adjusted a few details to protect identities. My name's Sarah. I'm 38, and I just need to vent. Ever seen a family where one kid is the golden child and the other might as well not exist? Welcome to my world. Things were normal enough until I turned 8. I was an only child back then, and while my parents weren't overly affectionate, they were there. Mom would help me with schoolwork, and Dad would sometimes take me out fishing on Lake St. Clair. Not perfect, but decent. We weren't some idyllic TV family, but we got by just fine. Then everything flipped. One night I remember Aunt Kelly showing up at 2 a.m. telling me to grab a suitcase because Mom had been hospitalized. My sister Rachel was arriving 2 months earlier than expected. The following weeks blurred into hospital visits and whispered conversations. Rachel was tiny, like one of my doll's butt hooked up to all these wires. I wasn't allowed near her. That's the first time I felt it, that unseen barrier forming between me and everyone else. Once they brought Rachel home, our house became a sanitized lab. Mom was obsessed with cleanliness. We're talking industrial cleaners, hand sanitizer in every room, constant wiping. To this day, I can't stand the smell of bleach. But what really messed me up? Every time I showed the slightest sign of being sick of a sneeze, I was shipped off to Grandma Marie or Aunt Kelly's. Didn't matter what it was. Cough once? Pack your bag. At first, I liked it, cookies at Grandma's, Nancy Drew books at Aunt Kelly's. But even as a kid, I knew I wasn't being sent on an adventure. I was being exiled. I was treated like a health hazard, a risk to Rachel's well-being. I tried everything to get noticed in a positive way. Straight A's? Mom barely glanced up from Rachel's appointment calendar. Won first place at the science fair with a renewable energy project? Dad just asked if I could put the board in the garage. Rachel was allergic to dust from cardboard. Didn't even know that was a thing. But the worst was when I was 12. I'd practiced for months to perform Bridge Over Troubled Water at the school talent show. On the night of the show, Rachel had a mild fever, 99.1 degree Fouth. No one showed up to support me. 2 weeks later, the whole extended family showed up for Rachel's 15-minute flute recital where she butchered hot cross buns. Rachel learned fast how to game the system. By 7, she had outgrown real health problems, but still knew how to fake being unwell to stay home. If she didn't want to go to school, stay home. Didn't want to do chores? I was assigned double. Worried about a quiz? Mom called the school and got the deadline pushed. I ended up retreating to my room, diving into books on art history and antiques. That space became my refuge. Rachel claimed she was allergic to my lavender air freshener, so she never entered. Oddly enough, when she faked being sick, I was almost relieved I'd get sent to Grandma's, where someone actually asked about my day. Grandma Marie was the one who got me interested in vintage jewelry. She had this amazing collection of costume pieces and let me sort and catalog them. I guess it was a sign of what was to come. The hardest part wasn't even the obvious favoritism. It was how they twisted the truth to justify it. Rachel just needs more care. She had a tough start. Sarah's so independent she understands. No, I didn't understand. I was just a kid who couldn't figure out why being healthy made me less lovable. Looking back, those years shaped me. The constant message that I was a burden or danger, those things don't just disappear. But hey, at least it taught me how to stand on my own 2 feet. When nobody checks your homework or celebrates your wins, you become your own biggest fan. High school? I treated it like my way out. While Rachel was busy turning middle school into her personal drama show, I was planning my escape. Nothing drives you more than knowing no one else is going to do it for you. Remember all that time I spent organizing Grandma's jewelry? It taught me something. Precision matters. In high school, that carried over into everything: color-coded notes, detailed study schedules, a desk that looked like it belonged in a productivity magazine. Rachel used to tease me, called me Rain Man. Real classy. But being overlooked has perks. No one's watching your every move. You're free to build your own path. I joined every club that didn't require tryouts, debate, yearbook, environmental club, you name it. Not because I loved them all, but because each one was a stepping stone on my college applications. By junior year, I had a GPA over 4.0 and was taking dual enrollment classes at the local community college. Meanwhile, Rachel was struggling just to pass PE. Mom once said, "Sarah doesn't need help, she's got everything under control." It was meant to praise me, I guess, but it just felt like another reason to ignore me. Senior year, I got accepted into a top university out of state. Full-ride scholarships, grants, the works. When I told my parents, their reaction, "Are you sure you want to go that far away? Rachel will miss you." Rachel. Always Rachel. I left 2 days after graduation. No party, no send-off, just me and 2 suitcases in a bus terminal. And you know what? I never looked back. College was everything I'd dreamed of. I majored in art history with a focus on antique appraisal and minored in finance. Weird combo, I know, but it paid off. During my junior year, I landed a part-time job at a small antique shop downtown. That place was magic. The owner, Mr. Abramson, was this gruff old guy with an eye for hidden gems. He taught me how to spot fakes, how to research provenance, how to negotiate. I soaked it all in like a sponge. When he retired, he left me the shop, said he had no kids, and I was the closest thing. By then, I was already flipping estate sale finds on eBay and Etsy, pulling in more money than my professors made. After graduation, I expanded, opened a second store, then a third, hired a small team, got certified as a gemologist. By 30, I'd built a small business empire around vintage items, estate planning, and historical restoration. I was even consulting for museums on the side. Life was good. I had a condo overlooking the Detroit River, a rescue dog named Rembrandt, and peace. Real, actual peace. My family, of course, barely knew any of this. We talked maybe twice a year, birthday and Christmas. Those calls were awkward, short, and usually revolved around Rachel's latest crisis. But last year, everything shifted. My Grandma Marie passed away. Natural causes. In her sleep. She was 92 and had lived a full life. I flew in for the funeral, paid my respects, and was getting ready to leave when her attorney pulled me aside. He handed me a sealed envelope and a key. Inside was a letter from Grandma and a deed. She had left me her house and everything in it. Apparently, she'd rewritten her will after I turned 25. She said I was the only one who ever listened, who cared. I cried like a baby in my rental car. The house wasn't huge, but it was full of antiques, many from Europe, brought over by her parents after World War II. When I had it appraised, I was stunned. Just the furniture and artwork were worth over $2 million. I moved the most valuable pieces into secure storage, sold the rest at auction, and turned the house into a private gallery space for historical preservation workshops. That's when my mom called, not to ask how I was doing, not to say thanks for organizing the estate sale. She called to ask if I'd consider sharing the inheritance with Rachel. Said Rachel had always dreamed of opening her own art studio, and Grandma would have wanted to help her. I was stunned. Rachel never even visited Grandma in her final years. She claimed the smell of old houses made her nauseous. I told my mom no, firmly but politely. And that's when it all hit the fan. The text started within minutes. My mom said I was being cold and selfish, that family should always come first. Rachel sent a voice note crying about how she was finally ready to follow her dreams, and I was standing in her way. Then came the guilt trip. How can you live with yourself knowing your own sister is struggling while you're sitting on millions? I didn't reply, but I did block them both for a while. It wasn't about the money. It was about the principle. Grandma chose me, not them, for a reason. A few weeks later, my uncle, a quiet man who rarely reached out, called me. Said he was proud of what I'd done with the house. That grandma would have loved it. That meant everything. Fast forward to this past Christmas. I got a card in the mail. No return address, but I recognized Rachel's handwriting. Inside was a photo of her standing in front of a cheap rented art studio, arms crossed, looking miserable. Written underneath, "Thanks for nothing." I laughed. Not because it was funny, but because for once, it didn't hurt. I wasn't angry anymore. I wasn't bitter. I just felt free. Free from the years of invisibility. Free from guilt. Free from being the one who was always too much or not enough. I hung the photo on the gallery wall under a sign that says, "This is what happens when you ignore the quiet one." I still visit Grandma's grave every month. I bring fresh lilies, her favorite, and sit beside her for a while. I tell her about the gallery shows, about how I finally feel seen, heard. Sometimes I even bring my sketchbook and draw the birds in the trees above. I know she'd be proud. Because in the end, she didn't just leave me a house. She left me freedom, voice, purpose. She believed in me when no one else did. And now I believe in myself too.